"Devry," she smirked. "I saved your life, Cowboy," after the rancher blurted. "You kissed me while I was out?" The day began like any other on the ranch, calm and predictable. The sun rose slowly over wide fields, spreading soft light across the wooden fences, dry grass, and distant hills. Morning air carried the smell of earth and hay. Birds moved freely, unaware that this ordinary day was about to change someone's life forever. The rancher had been awake since early dawn. He was used to hard mornings and long days. Life had taught him to depend on his own strength. He believed that if you worked hard enough, you could handle anything alone. That belief had shaped him for years. People around town respected him for it, even if they also knew he rarely asked for help. He moved steadily through his routine, checking fences, feeding the animals, fixing small things that always needed repair. His hands were rough, his movements confident. This land had been in his care for a long time, and he treated it like a responsibility he could never put down. By late morning, the heat began to rise. The sun grew sharper, and sweat formed on his forehead. He wiped it away and kept going. There was one more task left, something he had put off for weeks. A damaged section near the old storage shed needed fixing. It was a risky spot, uneven and ignored for too long, but he didn't think much of it. He never did. As he worked, the ranch felt quiet. Too quiet. No voices, no engines, no nearby help. Just whined wood and metal. He climbed carefully, tools in hand, focused on finishing quickly. But accidents never wait for permission. One wrong step was all it took. The ground beneath him shifted suddenly. His balance broke. There was a sharp moment of fear, followed by pain that rushed through his body before he could even react. He hit the ground hard. The air left his lungs in a silent gasp. For a few seconds, he couldn't move or breathe. The world blurred, spinning slowly. He tried to sit up, but his body refused. Pain spread, heavy and confusing. His thoughts scattered. He told himself to stay awake, to stay alert, but his strength faded fast. The sky above him felt too bright, too far away. Time lost its meaning. He drifted in and out, aware of little things, the sound of footsteps, a voice calling his name, hands shaking his shoulder. At first he thought his mind was playing tricks on him. No one was supposed to be there, but someone was. She had come by the ranch unexpectedly, not planning to stay long. She knew him well enough to recognize when something was wrong. The silence felt strange. When she saw him lying there, her heart dropped. Panic rose, but she pushed it down. There was no time for fear. She knelt beside him, checking his breathing, calling his name again and again. He didn't answer. His face was pale, his body still. She had never seen him like this. Strong, stubborn, and now completely helpless. She acted quickly. She knew waiting would only make things worse. With effort and determination, she managed to get him to a safer place, shielding him from the heat. She used what little knowledge she had and stayed close, refusing to leave him alone. Every minute felt long. Every sound made her hope he would wake up. She talked to him, even when he couldn't respond. She told him to stay with her, to keep fighting. Her voice was steady, but inside she was terrified. She didn't know how badly he was hurt. She only knew she couldn't lose him. Not like this, not alone on the ground he loved so much. Hours passed slowly. The sun shifted, shadows moved, and finally, his breathing became more even. He stirred slightly, but didn't wake. Relief washed over her, mixed with exhaustion. She stayed anyway, watching, waiting. When he was finally moved to safety and given time to rest, she didn't leave. She sat nearby, arms crossed, eyes heavy, but alert. The day that began as normal had turned into something neither of them would forget. This accident was more than a fall. It cracked open something deeper. For the first time in a long while, the rancher had been forced to depend on someone else. And for the woman who saved him, this day changed how she saw him, not just as a strong man who could handle everything, but as a human being who could break. Neither of them knew it yet, but this moment was the beginning of a story shaped by trust, confusion, and feelings that had been quietly waiting for the right moment to surface. When the rancher finally woke up, the first thing he noticed was the silence. It was not the peaceful kind he was used to on the ranch. This silence felt heavy, like the air itself was holding its breath. His eyes opened slowly, and bright light made him blink again and again. His head hurt, not sharp, but deep and dull, as if his thoughts were moving through thick fog. He tried to move his arms, but his body felt weak. A small sound escaped his throat before he could stop it. That sound was enough. She was sitting nearby, half asleep, her head leaning back against the wall. The moment she heard him, she was on her feet. Relief crossed her face so clearly that it surprised him, even through his confusion. "You're awake," she said softly, like she was afraid loud words might push him back into sleep. He looked at her, trying to understand why she was there. His mind searched for answers, but found only broken pieces. He remembered working. He remembered the sun. After that, everything was blank. What happened? He asked. His voice sounded strange to his own ears. She let out a breath she didn't realize she was holding. You fell. Hard. You scared me. He frowned slightly, testing the words. Fell. That made sense. Pain moved through his body when he tried to shift again. He stopped and sighed. How long was I out? He asked. Long enough, she replied. Don't try to be tough right now. Just stay still. That was when he really noticed her. The tired look in her eyes, the dust on her clothes, the way her hands shook just a little before she hid them by crossing her arms. This wasn't a short visit. She had been there a while. You stayed, he said, more like a statement than a question. She nodded. Of course I did. That answer confused him more than anything else. He wasn't used to people staying. Most people came and went, just like seasons. He preferred it that way. Or at least he told himself he did. He closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them again. I don't remember much, he admitted. Just flashes. That's normal, she said gently. Your body took a hit. Give your mind some time. He studied the ceiling, then turned his head slightly to look at her again. You found me? Yes. Why were you here? She hesitated. You didn't answer your phone. And you're not the type to disappear. He almost smiled at that. Almost. Silence filled the room again, but this time it felt different. Less heavy. More uncertain. A thought surfaced from the fog in his mind. A feeling more than a memory. Warmth. A closeness. Something soft and unexpected. His heart beat faster as the thought became words. Did you? He paused, embarrassed without knowing why. Did you kiss me while I was out? The moment the words left his mouth, he wished he could pull them back. Her eyes widened for just a second before she looked away. Then she laughed, a short, quiet laugh that surprised him. She turned back to him, a small smirk playing on her lips. I saved your life, Cowboy, she said calmly. Let's focus on that first. His face felt hot. So, that's a yes? She raised an eyebrow. You were barely breathing. Don't read too much into it. He stared at her, unsure whether to feel embarrassed, confused, or something else entirely. I didn't mean to. I know, she interrupted, softer now. You're still coming back to yourself. He nodded, swallowing. The room suddenly felt too small. His thoughts were moving faster now, connecting dots he hadn't noticed before. Her being there. Her staying. The way she looked at him like she'd almost lost something important. You really scared me, she said quietly. That stopped him. He had scared animals before, even people sometimes, without meaning to, but he had never thought of himself as someone who could scare her. The idea settled deep in his chest. I didn't plan to, he said. I know, she replied. You never do. Her words weren't angry, just honest. Time passed slowly after that. She brought him water and helped him sit up when he was strong enough. Every movement reminded him how close he had come to something worse. He hated that feeling, hated being weak, hated needing help, but when she adjusted the pillow behind his back without asking, he didn't push her away. As the day moved forward, pieces of memory returned, the broken step, the sudden drop, the pain. He told her what he remembered, and she filled in the gaps, how she had found him, how still he had been, how she refused to leave him alone. You didn't have to do all that, he said. Yes, I did, she answered simply. That simple answer stayed with him. Later, when the light outside softened and the ranch grew quiet again, he felt tired in a deeper way. Not just his body, but his heart. He realized something had shifted. The ranch no longer felt like a place where he stood alone against the world. Before sleep took him again, he looked at her and said, Thank you. She smiled, not the smirk this time, but something warmer. Get some rest. We'll talk more when you're stronger. He had survived the fall, but waking up was changing him even more. The next morning arrived slowly, like the ranch itself was careful not to wake him too fast. Sunlight slipped through the window in thin lines, warming the quiet room. The rancher opened his eyes and stayed still for a moment, listening. His body felt heavy, sore in places he didn't want to think about, but he was more aware now. Fog in his head had thinned, leaving space for clear thoughts and questions he couldn't ignore. He remembered her voice. He remembered the smirk. Most of all, he remembered the look in her eyes when she thought he wasn't watching. He turned his head and saw her sitting at the small table nearby, holding a cup in both hands. She looked tired again, but calmer than before. When she noticed he was awake, she didn't rush this time. She simply met his eyes. "You're up earlier," she said. "Didn't really sleep," he admitted. "Too much on my mind." She nodded like she understood more than he said. She stood, poured him some water, and handed it to him carefully. Their fingers brushed for a brief second. It was nothing, and somehow not nothing at all. "How bad was it?" he asked quietly. She leaned against the wall, choosing her words. "Worse than you think. Better than it could have been." That answer stayed with him. As the day went on, his strength slowly returned. He could sit up without help now. He could move his legs, though pain reminded him not to rush. She stayed nearby, giving him space when he needed it, stepping in when he didn't ask but clearly needed help anyway. It bothered him. Not because she was doing something wrong, but because she saw through him so easily. "You don't like being looked after," she said at one point, not accusing, just observing. "No," he replied. "I don't." "Why?" He thought about that longer than he expected. "Because once you let people do things for you," he said slowly, "they see the parts you try to hide. The ones that break." She didn't respond right away. Instead, she sat down across from him, resting her arms on the table. "I saw you broken already," she said. "You're still here." Later, as the sun climbed higher, she finally told him everything. Not all at once. Piece by piece, how she found him. How long he didn't move. How she kept talking to him even when he couldn't answer. How she was afraid to blink in case he stopped breathing. He listened without interrupting. "You kept saying you were fine," she added quietly, "even when you weren't awake." That surprised him. "I don't remember that." "I know," she said, "but you said it like you were trying to convince yourself, the kind that doesn't need filling." He looked down at his hands, rough and scarred, now shaking just a little. "I've always handled things alone," he said. "That's how it's always been." "And how did that work out for you this time?" she asked gently. He let out a breath. "Not great." She smiled, small and honest. As afternoon faded, something shifted between them. The tension didn't disappear, but it softened. Conversations became easier. They talked about small things, the ranch, old memories, plans he never shared with anyone else. She listened without judgment. That alone felt strange. At one point he asked the question that had been sitting in his chest since he woke up. "Why did you stay?" he asked. "You could have left once I was safe." She looked away, staring out the window at the land stretching wide and quiet. Because I wanted to make sure you really were okay." She met his gaze again. This time, she didn't smile. "No, it's not." He waited. "I stayed," she continued, "because seeing you like that scared me more than I expected. And because I realized something." "What?" he asked. "That if I had lost you," she said slowly, "it would have hurt more than I was ready to admit." Those words changed the air in the room. He didn't reach for her. He didn't joke or deflect. For once, he didn't hide. "I never meant to matter that much," he said. She gave a soft laugh. "You don't get to choose that." As evening approached, the ranch grew quiet again. Familiar sounds returned. The wind, the distant call of animals, the creak of old wood. Everything looked the same as before, but it didn't feel the same anymore. Before she left him to rest, she paused at the door. "You don't have to do everything alone," she said. "Not anymore." He watched her go, realizing something important. The truth wasn't just about the accident. The truth was that someone had seen him at his weakest, and stayed. The days that followed moved slowly, measured by sunlight through windows and the steady sounds of the ranch coming back to life. The rancher was stronger now, able to stand for short periods, able to walk with care. His body still reminded him of the fall, but his mind was clearer than it had been in a long time. That clarity brought comfort and discomfort at the same time. She stayed close, but not too close. She helped when needed, then stepped back. She respected his space, even when he clearly didn't know how to share it. Some days he was quiet, distant, slipping back into old habits. Other days, he surprised both of them by opening up without being asked. One morning, he insisted on going outside. "You're not ready," she said, standing in the doorway with her arms crossed. "I need to see it," he replied. "I need to know it's still there." She studied him for a long moment before stepping aside. "Fine, but slow." The sun greeted him like an old friend. The land stretched wide and familiar. Every fence, every path, every shadow reminded him of the life he built with his own hands. But walking through it now felt different. Each step carried memory of the fall, of the silence, of her voice pulling him back. They walked together without talking. When he stumbled, she reached out, steady but gentle. He didn't pull away this time. I hate feeling like this, he admitted finally. Like I don't know my own body anymore. That won't last forever, she said. Healing never does. That's easy to say when you're not the one lying still, he replied. She didn't argue, no. But I was the one watching. As the days passed, tension returned. Not loud or dramatic, but quiet and constant. He struggled with accepting help. She struggled with knowing when to step in and when to let him fail on his own. Small disagreements surfaced. About rest. About work. About pride. You don't need to prove anything, she said one evening. I'm not trying to, he snapped. She held his gaze. Yes, you are. The truth stung. That night, he barely slept. Old thoughts circled his mind. What if she was right? What if strength wasn't about standing alone, but knowing when to lean on someone else? The next day, he apologized. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just honestly, I'm not good at this, he said, letting someone see me struggle. She nodded. I know. He worked a little, rested more. Talked when words came easily, and sat in silence when they didn't. Trust grew quietly, like something fragile but real. One afternoon she finally spoke about the moment he didn't remember. You stopped breathing for a second, she said, her voice calm but her hands tight in her lap. I thought I'd lost you. He swallowed. I'm sorry you went through that. She shook her head. Just don't make me go through it again. He promised, though he wasn't sure how to guarantee it. As the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the ranch, he realized something else. The walls he had built around himself weren't protecting him anymore. They were keeping him stuck. I don't want to go back to how things were, he said quietly one evening. She looked at him surprised. Neither do I. That admission felt bigger than any argument. Before the week ended, she packed her bag. You're healing, she said, and you don't need someone hovering over you every second. He felt something tighten in his chest. You're leaving? I'm giving you space, she corrected. There's a difference. He nodded, though he wasn't sure he believed it. As she stepped onto the porch, she turned back to him. Just because you can stand on your own again doesn't mean you have to. He stood there, thinking about everything that had changed. About strength. About trust. About the person who saw him fall and didn't walk away. He knew now that healing wasn't just about the body. It was about learning how to let someone stay. The ranch felt different after she left. Not empty, but quieter in a way that made every sound clearer. The wind moving through the grass seemed louder. The creak of the fence felt slower. Even the animals moved as if they sensed a change. The rancher stood on the porch for a long time after her car disappeared down the dirt road, his thoughts heavy and restless. He told himself this was what he wanted. Space. Independence. The chance to prove he could handle things on his own again. For years, that belief had guided him. Yet now, standing alone where she had just been, the belief didn't feel as strong as it used to. He returned to his routine slowly. Each day, he pushed himself a little more, careful not to rush. He fixed small things, walked the land, checked the animals. His body healed bit by bit. The pain faded into soreness, then into memory. But something else stayed with him, an awareness he couldn't ignore. He noticed how often he looked toward the road. Silence no longer felt like comfort, but like something missing. At night, he replayed conversations in his head. Her calm voice, her honest questions, the way she never forced him to talk, yet somehow always knew when he needed to. He realized that she hadn't just helped him survive the fall. She had helped him face parts of himself he had been avoiding for years. One evening, a storm rolled in without warning. Dark clouds gathered and the air grew heavy. As rain hit the roof, his mind drifted back to the day of the accident. The fear, the helplessness, and her presence, steady, determined, refusing to leave him alone. That was when he understood something clearly. Strength wasn't about never falling. It was about what you allowed to change after you got back up. The next morning, he made a decision that surprised even him. He picked up his phone and sent a short message. No long explanations. No excuses. I'm better. Would like to see you. No pressure. When the reply came hours later, it was simple. I'll stop by. When her car finally pulled into the driveway, his heart beat faster than it had in days. She stepped out, looking the same and somehow different. More relaxed. More certain. They stood facing each other for a moment, neither rushing forward. You look stronger, she said. I am, he replied. In more ways than one. They walked together across the ranch, just like before, but this time there was no tension pulling them apart. He told her how the days had been. He listened, She told him about her own thoughts, her doubts about leaving, her hope that he would understand why she did. "I didn't want to become something you relied on out of fear," she said. "I wanted you to choose me, not need me. I didn't know how to choose anyone before." They stopped near the spot where he had fallen. The ground looked ordinary now, no sign of the moment that had changed so much. "I used to think this place defined me," he said, "that if I lost control here, I lost everything." "And now?" she asked. "And now I know it doesn't," he said. "Because I didn't lose everything. I found something." She met his eyes, understanding, without needing more words. As the sun lowered, painting the land in warm light, they sat together on the porch. No rush, no pressure, just presence. The kind that feels earned. "I don't want to go back to who I was before," he said quietly. "Not completely." She smiled. "Neither do I." She visited more often, sometimes staying longer. He didn't pretend he didn't need help anymore. He asked when he needed it, and she learned to trust that he would speak up, not shut down. The ranch became a shared space. Not owned, not controlled, but lived in. Laughter returned to places that once held only quiet. Conversation stretched into evenings. Trust grew, not from promises, but from small, consistent choices. One evening, as stars filled the sky, he looked at her and spoke words he never thought would come easily. "Thank you for saving my life," he said. She smiled gently. "You saved it too. You just didn't know it yet." He realized then that the fall had given him something rare, a second chance, not just to heal, but to live differently. The ranch remained the same. The land didn't change. But the man standing on it did.